Fletcher, and I help artists to find their own unique creative voice. One of the most important aspects of our creative voice is our use of colour. I love to encourage mixing your own colours, not working from tube paints. But how do you keep track of all the colours that you've mixed? How do you know which ones you really liked? I have just the technique for you. It's really cool. It's an easy way of mixing up hundreds and hundreds of colours and then keeping them all in a way that you can easily access them and find the exact colour you want for any painting. So let me show you. Okay, so I buy these from Amazon, and they're usually listed as flashcards, blank flashcards, and they're for studying, for students studying, kids studying, whatever. They're just blank, kind of shiny white cards with a simple card cover and a ring like you find in binders, and that ring goes between the holes and turns them into a little flip book in the end. So they're really handy, I find, for colour storage. But if you can't find these to buy, you could very easily make this with some index cards and a hole punch, and you can buy those rings separately on Amazon too, and you can make them larger than the ones that I buy. And if you're wondering what we're aiming for, this is what they ultimately will be. I make these little mini ring binders full of colour swatches when I'm exploring a specific palette. And you can see on the front that I mark the colours on the front that the palette is made up of. And so that's what I'm going to be making. And I find these incredibly useful, so I wanted to share it with you, and I'll show you in another video exactly how I use this in a real painting. But first, let me show you how I make them. So when I'm working with these, I will work it with a limited palette. I will choose, in this case, I've chosen a blue, a yellow, a red, black and white, but in some cases it might be orange, yellow, blue, black and white. I will keep to no more than 3 colours and black and white when I do these exercises. Otherwise it gets too daunting, because you'll see how many different colours you can make just from those. Many of you know this if you mix a lot of colour. So I don't need to complicate it. And in fact, when I was doing this, I didn't get anywhere near all the options that are available from these colours. So I started out mixing mainly in the greens, but then it started veering towards the blues, and I tend to just follow it wherever it's going. So I have no real organized method for this. If you're going to do this, put some really cheap paper underneath where you're working. This is copy paper that's underneath me, you know, the really thin flimsy stuff, because it gets covered if you want to cover the cards, and my hands get covered, everything gets covered. And so I'm going now more to, I'm starting to add some of the red in, so that's taking it more towards the lilac. And I'll just keep going as long as I have room on my palette and as long as I have cards to work with. This is just such an interesting process. And the reason I like working on this as opposed to in a sketchbook, which I also do, but these can be held up against a painting and checked to see. It's hard to do that with a sketchbook, to get the colour swatch right up against the painting. So these are very, very handy for that. But in the past, my problem used to be that I had piles and piles of painted bits of paper and card and no organisation system. And so I found these little binders to be a really cool way of keeping all the colours within one palette together, so that and then I write on the front what colours were involved in making that palette, and it's just so easy then to go back and mix a colour if I want it, and it's easy to hold these up against my paintings to see if a certain colour will work or not. So that's how I use these. Now once all the colours are done, I seal them with gloss medium, because that gives me what the colours look like on my painting. Since I use gloss medium, it also stops them from chipping, the paint from chipping off. These cards are a little bit shiny, so the paint doesn't adhere brilliantly, but once I put the gloss medium on, they're sealed. And here what I'm doing is just buffing them with a little bit of cold wax medium, which I always have, This isn't necessary, you don't have to do all this finishing, but for me, I like it because that keeps them from sticking together, and I do like to go through the book and look at the different colours fairly frequently. So once I'm finished buffing, then I'm going to put them together. And so to do that, I just thread them onto the metal ring that came with them. They can stick a little bit, and I'm sorry I didn't put that straight right in the camera, and then put the cardboard covers on. I've already painted the cardboard cover to say what colours are in there, what this was made up of. This was Phthalo Turquoise, Cad Red Deep, and Process Yellow. And then I'll write those colours on the front because I'm not going to remember in the future. And then there is my reference guide. Easy to flip through, easy to look and see that colour against a painting. Just take it over to my painting wall and put the colour up against the painting, and then decide what's going to look good in a particular painting. An easy reference to know how to mix that colour again. And I don't need to write the colours, the names on the back of every card, which is a real nuisance, because I've got it on the front and they're all kept together. So it's just, I really, really love these little books, and I hope it helps you. And like I say, you don't have to buy this particular brand, probably doesn't even exist anymore. You know how these things are on Amazon, but there'll be something similar, or you can just buy cards and a hole puncher and some of these rings, which are always sold loose on Amazon or other sites like that. And then there you go, Bob's your uncle. If you enjoyed this video, do subscribe and hit the bell to be notified when I post. And I'd love to hear from you how you keep track of your colour experiments. So drop me a comment below and just let me know. I can't wait to hear from you, and I'll see you next time. Bye.